You know that moment when you scroll through a dozen monitor recorder bundles, each promising crystal clear HDR and 8K RAW, only to end up with a device that either eats your battery or forces you to stare at a menu maze. I've been there, and the last thing anyone wants is to spend a good chunk of money on a tool that feels more like a tech puzzle than a filmmaking partner. That's why I'm doing this deep dive on the Atomos Ninja TX 5.2-inch bundle, not just to list specs, but to figure out whether it actually saves you time and headaches on set. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the core promise, a 5.2-inch HDR display that doubles as a recorder capable of 8K 30 RAW. For anyone shooting with a cinema-grade camera, that's a massive upgrade over a plain LCD screen. In real-world use, the Ninja TX gives you a brightness level that stays readable even when you're shooting outdoors under bright sunlight. I tried it on a sunny rooftop with a Sony A7S, and the image stayed vivid without needing to crank the sunshade. That kind of visibility matters when you're trying to nail focus on a moving subject and can't afford to squint at a washed-out monitor. Speaking of focus, the Ninja TX feeds the camera's live video straight to its screen, which means you can double-check autofocus confidence without relying on your camera's tiny viewfinder. In my tests with a Panasonic GH5, the autofocus lock-on was instant, and the monitor displayed the focus peaking overlays exactly as the camera did. That consistency saved me a few takes, especially when I was tracking a skateboarder through a park. If you're the type who worries about soft focus after the fact, this real-time preview is a genuine safety net. Now, low-light performance is where a lot of external monitors stumble. The Ninja TX uses a 10-bit HDR panel that retains detail down to about ISO 800 without crushing shadows. I put it in a dimly lit basement and recorded a short interview with a single LED key light. The monitor still showed decent gradation, and the recorded RAW file captured the nuance that the camera's internal codec would have flattened. It's not a miracle cure for a poorly lit scene, but it gives you a clear window into what the sensor actually sees, which is crucial when you're pushing the limits of your lighting gear. Battery confidence is a big concern for anyone who's tried to shoot a longer run with a monitor strapped to the rig. The Ninja TX bundle includes a 12V200WH battery that hooks directly into the hot shoe, and the unit can also draw power from a standard mount battery if you already have one on your rig. In a 3-hour outdoor shoot, the battery held steady with only a 10% drop, even while I was recording 8K RAW at the highest bitrate. That's a solid margin for most indie projects, though if you're planning a full-day shoot with multiple cameras, you'll still want a secondary power source. Menu navigation can feel like a hurdle on many professional monitors, but Atomos kept it fairly straightforward. The main screen shows you recording status, waveform, and histogram at a glance, while deeper settings are tucked behind a single button press. It does take a minute to locate the 8K RAW toggle, but once you've set your preferred format, the monitor remembers it for future sessions. For a first-time user, there's a small learning curve, but it's not the kind that makes you want to throw the device out the window. Who should consider buying the Ninja TX? If you're a hobbyist or a freelance creator who already owns a mirrorless or cinema camera that outputs clean HDMI, this bundle gives you a tangible upgrade in monitoring and recording without needing a separate external recorder. The ability to capture native 8K RAW means you can future-proof your footage, especially if you plan to regrade in post. It's also a good fit for small documentary crews who need a reliable monitor that won't drain their battery bank too quickly. On the flip side, if you're just starting out and still learning the basics of exposure and focus, you might not need the full 8K RAW capability yet. A cheaper monitor recorder combo could cover your needs until you move into higher resolution workflows. Likewise, if you primarily shoot in controlled lighting environments where HDR isn't a priority, the Ninja TX's HDR panel may be overkill. Let's get practical about the strengths. The biggest win is the seamless integration of monitoring and recording. You get an HDR preview and a lossless RAW file in one package, which cuts down on gear weight and cable clutter. The aluminum alloy hot shoe is robust. I dropped the rig a few inches onto a concrete floor, and the unit stayed firmly attached with no wobble. The universal HDMI compatibility means you can pair it with almost any camera that outputs at least 1080p, making it a versatile addition to a mixed gear bag. Now for the weaknesses. The biggest complaint I heard from other creators Outside of this,